watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture. Funding for Shalom TV has been provided by the following. And by viewers like you.
I'm Mark Golub, and what a thrill I have again to reintroduce you to one of the most remarkable musical talents on the face of this planet, a songwriter, a tremendous musician, and a wonderful performer, and I'm pleased to say one of the loveliest people you'll ever meet and a dear friend of mine. David Broza, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you, Mark. What am I going to say now?
And I want everybody to know, David, part of the occasion that I've asked David to sit with me again is that he has just come out with an extraordinary new CD called Night Dawn. It's David's own compositions of music put to the lyrics of the unpublished poetry of a dear friend of David's, Townes Van Zandt, an American poet. The CD is put out by S-Curve Records, and there are a dozen just beautiful, beautiful songs. And David, I had the opportunity, thanks to you, to last night see you in concert doing a lot of these numbers as well as some of your own signature songs. And it must have been thrilling for you to see the way the audience responded to the songs on Night Dawn.
Yes, it was something out of the ordinary. I always expect, as myself, an audience of some great artists, when I come to listen to their shows, I want to hear the icon, the melodies and the songs that I'm familiar with. And I've never yet heard an artist. There is a rare occasion where an artist would present almost an entire new body of works. But they don't, and I don't either. I come to entertain. And last night I played 10 out of the 12 new songs, and it was magical.
It was magical.
It was magical.
But that's the right word. It was magic for me being there. And
as an artist, I will tell you, it's a privilege to be able to test the audience and test the material live. It just shows that it works.
What inspired you to do Night Dawn?
Well, Night Dawn originated in a meeting that I had once in 1994 with Townes Van Zandt. Townes Van Zandt is one of the most exceptional and most highly regarded singer-songwriters of the United States, a native of Texas, and he wrote songs that are sung from everywhere from the Rolling Stones to Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, Nirvana, and the list goes on and on and on. Till today, young bands are inspired by Townes and love to sing his songs. Now, he himself didn't take that celebrity life. He lived as a troubadour, as a singer-songwriter, storyteller, and played mostly in intimate venues, although he had unbelievable following worldwide and especially in the States. He and I were set up to meet in a little theater in Houston, Texas. It's called the Main Street Theater, as part of the Writers in the Round series that they have there, meaning that there'd be 3 or 4 singer-songwriters sitting on a small stage like this in an intimate setting with an audience, and each one puts out his most recent or whatever songs they want to put out.
This was the first time you met him?
The first and almost only time we met him. Almost, because we did meet briefly another time, but we never quite had what we had on that night in 1994. And it was not only just us on stage, there was some other remarkable artists. There was David Amram, David Amram is still alive today, and he's going to be celebrating his 80th birthday. He, along with Jack Kerouac, started what is now known for years as the Beat Generation. They were the first beatniks. So David Amram, still very active musically, is one of the most innovative, exciting, and inspiring personalities and musicians in the world, he knew me and insisted that I meet with Towns. So he helped set it up, and he called his friend, singer-songwriter Linda Lowe, who is from Houston. She's actually from Arkansas, but lives in Houston. And she was a close friend of Towns's, and they set up that meeting. So we sat the four of us on stage, but very quickly it became one of those nights where Towns and I were the artists that took over the entire show, and we engaged each other with song and stories.
There was a real connection?
There was incredible connection. For me, suddenly I realized I was sitting in front of the exact persona that I had come to the United States in search of.
Oh, how interesting. What was that?
Well, see, I grew up at home. My mother was Israel's first folk singer, Sharona Aaron. And she would listen to everything from the Kingston Trio, Woody Guthrie, to Josh White, Odetta, and all this. And those who came to Israel, Pete Seeger, the Platters, Harry Belafonte, they all even visited her at
yes,
home.
you told us last time we met, they came through your home.
Right, so I was inspired by that music. Then I grew up into my own music, which started with Jimi Hendrix, with a band, with Bob Dylan, with Simon and Garfunkel, and then the flamenco music in Spain, and Israeli rock and roll and folk rock. So at some point in my career, when I started my career, I thought it's not good enough just being inspired by it and emulating the sounds and the finger picking and all. I ought to go and check out, that's the way I am though. I want to go check out where it all comes from. So I, ended up in the States, and I would travel all over the United States, trying to really get the feel for the essence of all that American culture that I was inspired by. Because in New York, you get to see only the best of it. You don't get to see the rest of it, So when I sat finally in front of Towns, he had it all. He was the poet, the singer-songwriter, the storyteller, the troubadour, the traveler, the Texan, the down-to-earth, and the guy who didn't take on that persona of I'm a big star, but still remained, looked you right in the eye and gave you the time that you wanted and he wanted. And we shared 4 hours together, at the end of which he said to me, he said this, because normally he writes lyrics and music together. But at the end of this, having discovered that there is a way of writing music to poetry, which is not very common at all, as a matter of fact, not at all common in pop music in the United States, he offered to work with me, collaborate with me, and let me work on his poetry. For that, we would have to meet again. But what turned out to be is that in the 2 years that followed, that we tried to get together because of our hectic schedules, we never did. And, we kept on saying, okay, we'll find another day. And then one day in New Year's Day of 1997, I got a call telling me that he had passed away. So we missed out on that opportunity and chance to actually sit and continue that magical relationship that started in those 4 hours. But he had spoken time and time again to Linda Lowe and other friends of his longing and real wish for me to work on his poetry. And so it was delivered to me the message that he wanted me to keep on working on his poetry, which is what triggered me and got me to get in touch with his widow, Janine. And after 8 years of patiently waiting for the time to come, Janine passed on these poems to me. I was in Israel, and took another 4 years of writing the music and feeling that it's the right moment. And now I'm sitting here with you, Mark, and telling you this journey that took almost 12 years. It's very interesting. And so last night was one of those magical moments where I get to sit and actually carry out what Towns had delivered to me, 16 years ago. And I'm glad to say that it's exactly what I came out to do, and it's what I'd wished to do when I started my entire career musically, and that is to build bridges. And if there is a bridge, this is one, definite one. It's my Israeli music to the Texas-born, Towns Van Zandt's poems, and this is what I set to do, and this is what I'm doing.
That's a beautiful, wonderful story. It also explains why the title is The Unpublished Poetry
Correct.
Of Towns Van Zandt.
Because those poems never saw light. They haven't. And there's more poems. And I know that if this album succeeds, hopefully it will, and it will become common knowledge, and it will cross over to general audiences as I wish it will, and I hope it does, and it should, then I'm sure that other musicians will also seek those poems and see the the strength in them, and write music to them, and that way also continue to building Towns' name out there.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need you to do a whole number, and we were at that concert in any case. But for those who are watching now, can you give me a taste of Soul to Soul?
You bet.
Okay. And set it up for me. What's the poem?
You know, Towns is one of the things that attracts so many artists to Towns' songs is the way he deals without any barriers, doesn't stop at anything, and deals directly with death in a poetic way. And death and love are very, very, very similar. They're bursts of end of a beginning, something everybody one's afraid of, but one's is attracted to. I mean, this is something we can go on forever. In this song, in Soul to Soul, he talks of a very subtle end, but his poem says, "And I must leave, and you must stay. The sun will go, rise and go away." It's the first poem that I set to music. And,
This is the first poem?
Mm-hmm. Most of them I wrote in Israel, in Tel Aviv, but this one I wrote in New York City. So I'm going to play it right here in New Jersey. Leaves that cling to the bough today lie on the earth tomorrow. Flowers of spring shall nod their heads and pierce my heart in sorrow. I must leave, but you must stay. The sun will rise and fall away. I must leave, but you must stay. Perhaps to come another day. I'll stay on forever. Time doesn't mean a thing to me, nor love isn't meant for passing. Soul to soul, you'll always be. Now I must leave, you must stay. The sun will rise and fall away. I must leave, you must stay. Perhaps to come another day. Love that I found in the brown of your eyes. Your gaze that showed me heaven. The red of my blood will show by and by how deeply and truly I love you. Must leave, you must stay. The sun will rise and fall away. I must leave, and you must stay. Perhaps to come another day.
You told me last time that you actually work musically with Palestinians. Is that
True.
do I remember
Oh,
right?
yes.
Right?
More than ever.
Is that still true for you?
More than ever.
More than ever. Very often, when Jews discuss the Middle East conflict, they do it without any personal contact with Palestinians.
That's right.
And there is, in my view, an understandable, might not be accurate, but an understandable fear of the Palestinian. And in some way, there's a demonization of the Palestinian within the Jewish community. And that is not typical just of Jews. People tend to demonize what they're afraid of. Have you heard the way in which Jews who care about the state of Israel worry that the Palestinians' ultimate agenda is the one expressed by Islamic extremists, that a Zionist entity anywhere on Palestine is a blasphemy against Islam, and that even if they would be happy to be friends with David Broza, in the end, the Palestinian goal is the eradication of a Jewish state in Israel. I'm sure you've heard it. I want to know how you would answer a Jew who said to you, I want peace with the Palestinians, but I really believe that ultimately they don't want peace with me.
My first reaction to everything is, have you ever looked a Palestinian in the eye? Or ask a Palestinian, have you ever looked an Israeli in the eye? Because once you've done that, you're not going to love him, but you're not going to fear him. And it's the truth.
Because?
Because eye contact is the strongest way of putting out any fears. You know, a lot of people used to think that Jews have horns. And when they see them, they don't have horns. Now what do you do? I need to see those horns. So you don't see horns. And if there's no horns, it means that they're just people. And if they're just people, let's put away that, preconceived and those indoctrined fears that have been pushed into our lives and have turned us into somewhat overprotective people. And our overprotectiveness can translate into violence because we're trying to protect our territories, and so we're building walls. And like my friend, my Palestinian partner, Saeed, who is the most noble human I've met, and very, very patriotic Palestinian. Let's not take that away from him. But, he walks next to me along the wall that was being built between Israel and Palestine, and he laughs. And I said, why are you laughing? He says, because this wall is not a wall. The biggest wall is here. It's in our minds. Walls are just material. The real wall is between us. We have created a wall.
Does your friend understand why Israel built the wall?
Of course he does. It's not.
And does he?
I've never heard him say that Israel ought to be punished for that or that is a terrible. He says, okay, so now there's a wall. Tomorrow there won't be a wall.
There won't be a wall if Israelis believe, and if the reality shows, Palestinians don't want to cross into Israel to blow themselves up in Sbarros.
Well, now we're going into a deeper issue, which is very political, and that is, why are we still holding on to the West Bank and Gaza? I mean, Gaza was given up a few years ago, but why? What are we doing?
What is your answer? Why do you think Israel is holding? But I'll tell you what people tell me. That the vast majority of Israeli people, in any kind of poll and in any kind of election, would tomorrow give up the entire West Bank. They'd also carve out a piece of East Jerusalem for the capital of the Palestinians, if they believed that they could have real peace. And real peace means that nobody's child or grandchild would ever be in jeopardy when they leave the house. That this is not about warm and fuzzy. This is about the Palestinians and the Jews will share the land. And that the reason they'll share the land is not only for security, because it's the right thing to do. The Jews said from before 48, we will share the land. And the Palestinian initially, the Arab world initially said, we don't want to share the land. You don't deserve any of the land. You don't merit, there's no reason why you should have any of the land. And in the 48 war, they tried to basically overthrow the UN decision. And from then till this day, there has been within the Arab world and the Palestinian world a rejection of Israel's right to exist. And the only reason Israel is now on the West Bank. And I'm not saying there were not times when there were those who ran the Israeli government and who would have wanted the, quote, greater Israel and wanted to incorporate the West Bank. But that's not where Israelis are now. Where Israelis are now is, we will share the land on one condition, only one condition. You live with me in peace. And the answer I get from people is, the reason why Israel is there is because the Palestinian community is not yet ready to say, we'll live with you in peace. There's no other reason.
Well, there are many reasons. I don't think it's not just that. It's there's a complete distrust on both sides because of the history of that we've created. You know, the history that we've lived in the past 60 years. I mean, there's mistakes that the Palestinian leadership in the 47 made a mistake. The Arabs made mistakes. The Israelis are strong. They were able to fight off the thing. But by the way, the UN decision did not take into account the Palestinian, the Arab population, and the outcome of the right of return and all that.
Well, the right of return was not an issue.
No, but it's not just about the right of return. It's about giving legitimacy to Israel as the Jewish state.
Did the United Nations make a mistake?
Nobody made mistakes.
No, you could say they made a mistake.
I wouldn't say that because I was born in Israel. I'm very proud and very happy. I was born in Israel. I'm proud of my country. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm proud of my people. I'm proud of everything. I have a problem now in today's world where I can make a difference and help avoid mistakes as a citizen, as a civilian. Not just vote every 4 years, but voice my opinion. And because it's a democracy, I can, call a friend, call other friends, call many friends, and make a difference somehow. The way I work, though, and the way I try to contribute as much as I can, is when I do make music, and I do spend a lot of time in East Jerusalem in the Palestinian studio belonging to Said, and we build bridges there, and we make friendships, and we touch, and we care, and we bring down the level of hostility and the level of distrust.
Is Said ready to live with Israel side by side in peace?
But of course.
Of course.
Yes.
I want you to say to me, clearly, unequivocally, that the Palestinian people are ready to live side by side with the Jewish state of Israel in peace.
That's a political statement, which I can't say for anybody.
But why? Why can't you say it?
I live with Said at peace. I can see that out there, completely, in true honesty and
do you have hope in a two-state solution?
I do have a hope in a two-state solution.
And if you have a hope, it's because you believe that there are Palestinians who would really implement a side-by-side in peace reality.
Of course they do. The West Bank is already showing it, and the West Bank is already making all the preparations and all the changes that need to be made in getting the country ready. They're not in the situation that we were, where we overnight had a state, and they might be. They might at the end, within a year, like they already said, if depending on where things go, that they will overnight, they will just call themselves a state, and that'll be it. And Israelis who live in the West Bank, and we haven't come to any arrangements as we should come to civil arrangements, then they will be stuck with the reality. And these things can happen, and I don't see why they won't happen.
Would it be good if it happened from your perspective?
Everything is good.
No, David.
What do you mean it's good? Listen, everything is good and everything is difficult. Everything is difficult. I mean, how do we raise our children? We worry, but it's a good thing. Of course I'm worried. I'm worried about, maintaining a level of cordiality, a level of dialogue, not going to the extent that we're going today with violence. And it's not Israelis, we humans. But it's very difficult. It's all emotional. And the emotions are manipulated into history and into religion and into all kinds of things. And then it becomes such a havoc and calamity that lives can be lost, and that's the dangerous part. You must understand, there are a lot of groups in Israel and in Palestine, more than ever, that work together, that work to understand each other, despite of the political situation. I mean, there's the the most amazing group, two amazing groups that I bow in front are the circle of bereaved parents, Israeli and Palestinians, bereaved parents, who work as one to calm down and to show that in spite of the reason, they have plenty of reasons to hate each other and to continue wanting to go for an eye, that they work together as one to heal the wounds. And there's the Combatants for Peace, who are all ex-fighters from the Israeli army and ex-fighters from the different factions in the West Bank and Gaza.
Where are they located?
In Israel.
In Israel proper?
Oh yeah, well, in Israel proper. Some of them in Anata, in the East Jerusalem area, and some of them in Ramallah, some in Nablus, some in Jaffa, some in Tel Aviv, some in Haifa, from all over.
Okay, all in Israel. Is
Middle
there a peace now equivalent within the Palestinian world?
There are several groups. As a matter of fact, on the 40th anniversary of the occupation, which was 3 years ago, I was invited to play in Anata, which is in East Jerusalem. It's a village, and to address 3,000 peace activists from Palestine. It was amazing. It was amazing.
You know, they get no press.
Wait, 3 months later, 11,000 convened in Tulkarem. And the reason I went to meet these 3,000 and to show myself there is because, like you, I said, we have all these peace activists. Where are our partners? We always said that. Well, I met them.
Do they have any power at all?
Yes.
Because that's what we always hear.
Big power.
Within the Jewish world, the fear is that those who would be more moderate, or even the equivalent of the Shalom Achshav, are afraid to express themselves for fear of kind of physical reprisals.
Correct.
And they really have no power because it's not a real democracy.
They have power. It's not about democracy. It's about the way their society runs. And they're changing. They're learning what democracy is. They know more about it than any other Arab nations around, because they've been exposed to our system so much, and they have been working with our system. The Peres Foundation, one of the greatest things that the Peres Foundation is doing is laying the foundation for a democratic state. They're teaching them. They're doing courses.
On the West Bank?
Yes. Well, the Peres Foundation meets with economists, with doctors, with architects, with engineers. They're really, really helping them create the infrastructure. Look, I'm not a working activist like some of my friends are. I'm really a musician, and the reason I care to speak is from a very personal viewpoint, my personal experience. I'm trying to share it. I'm allowing myself to share it with you. And I know it's going to go out to masses, and people might say, who the hell does he think? I am that one guy who lives in a small house, who votes like every other democratic society is every 4 years, who is allowed to voice his opinion and may be wrong, but is willing to listen and also wants to criticize where there's criticism to be made. And so my assessments are based on many, many years of being part of the Israeli-Palestinian or the Arab-Israeli conflict, of living in the Middle East, of having dedicated my life to a career which is music, which has nothing to do with politics. It's love songs, although once in a while I do have a special thing. And since I'm part of that society, if I was living in the States, I would be doing the same for American society. And when I lived here for a while, I try to help as much as I can in issues that dealt with the village where I was, and in Spain at the same way. I work, helping the handicapped. I work helping the Israeli-Arab conflict through supporting these groups that deal with conflict resolution. It's about being alive, and about maybe showing those who are a little bit cynical and doubtful that life is hopeful, and you have to be active about it. You just can't sit there watching TV, reading the news, and criticizing it. You got to take part of it. You really do. And there is so much to be done.
You know, at Neve Shalom Wachat al Salem,
Yes.
After the flotilla incident, there were Arab Israelis who put up very strong posters basically railing at the Israeli Navy for murdering people on the Mavi Marmara. Then, after some discussion, the word murder was changed to killing. But that this event seems to have created a certain kind of tension within that community. Any reaction on your part?
I'm not, you see, I've been away now for a week. I was there when it happened, for the few days after. My immediate reaction to what you're saying is we're talking about an emotional period. When the emotion subsides, the facts come. Once the facts come, the resolutions and the conclusions can be made. So I think it's wonderful that they can voice their pain. It's a shame that they choose hard words that can hurt, but they're hurt. And there's reason for their hurt.
They do not identify as Israeli citizens, as Jewish Israelis. In other words, what was interesting
How
to
would
me...
they? They're Arab.
But they're Israeli.
Then don't say Jewish. Then just call them Israelis.
They are Israelis.
Good. Then call them
However,
Israelis.
however, they are Arab Israelis.
Then don't call them Arab Israelis. You can't sometimes say Arab Israelis, sometimes say Israelis.
Yes, but are you saying that there are Jewish Israelis who would have reacted the same way to
Well,
the flotilla
you
incident?
tell me, how does the Hispanic community in New York City reacts when Hispanic kids get mugged or get shot by policemen? Are they called then Americans? New Yorkers? No, the Hispanic community. What are you expecting? We all have our roots, our cultures, our identity. We as Jews should respect that more than anybody because we fight so hard to keep our identity. You know, in every town we insist on having two synagogues, not one, because one, we don't go to that one. No, really, we are phenomenal.
But in the end...
So are we not allowed? We don't want others to have that?
In the end, there is a hope in America that the Hispanic community and every ethnic community here will feel an identity with America.
After 200 years, it's possible that they're beginning to. We're only 60 years on the map.
So you're just saying it's too early.
It's all part of a process.
And
Please, let's forgive ourselves for being
I just wanted to,
mistaken and for doing the wrong things.
David Broza is saying that he believes there's a path here where ultimately those Israelis who have Arab ancestry will feel positive about a Jewish state of Israel. America, by the way, doesn't ever have that overlay to it. Israel is a Jewish state. And the Arab who lives in Israel, if he is going to be a full citizen, is going to have to identify with a country whose national anthem refers to the soul of the Jew. And I don't know if that's possible, David. I'm not sure there's an analogy here with the Hispanic American. And there are many Americans, by the way, who believe that there's a problem because this country is now bilingual instead of insisting that everybody speak English. And that ultimately what you want to do is create a sense of oneness. But I don't know how that translates for the Arab, someone with an Arab background who is living in a state where it is clear it's a Jewish state. And you as an Arab Israeli can have every civil right that a Jewish Israeli, but it's a Jewish state. And then there are some people, especially on the far left, who argue Israel should be just a Middle Eastern state and that everybody has a right to vote and it shouldn't be a Jewish Israel. It should just be a Middle East Israel. And so it is, as you say from the very beginning, this is complicated.
Israel should be a good country.
Should be a Jewish state?
A good Jewish country.
Should always be a Jewish state?
Israel should be a good Jewish country. Like I come from a good Jewish home that respects its citizens, whatever they may be. May they be Arabs, may they be Jews, may they be Christians, may they be Druze, Bedouins. They have to, Israel now, after the initial 60 years, 63 years, has to and can afford to now deal with the problems that have been waiting to be dealt with helping the minorities in Israel become equal citizens and sharing in the greatness of Israel. This should be our predominant issue on the table, and unfortunately, every once in a while, perhaps more than we would like to, we have a catastrophe, like the flotilla. We're dealing with catastrophes. Part of the catastrophes happen because we create them. We don't solve them in time. We're not smart enough. We don't know how to do it. Politics doesn't allow us. But overall, Israel is now ready, I believe, to go to the next level and to protect and help all its citizens feel like they're an integrated part of a healthy society in a Jewish state. And this is in itself a complex statement, because in the end of all this, I say in a Jewish state. Yes, it has started as a Jewish state. It continues to be a Jewish state. As far as my vision goes, it will continue being a Jewish state. If ever things change, I probably won't know about it. But I hope if they do, that the state is at least respectful of all its citizens. And this is where I come from. I don't understand how to solve borders. I do understand how to help, hopefully. So I don't understand, but I'm trying to connect with people who understand and do to help in a social improvement of our state. And it comes in everything. It comes from services rendered and given by the government, by the municipalities, education, allowance for freedom of expression, and allowing for people to feel respect, towards each other within society. I'm not talking about now outside of the borders. And if we're on the way there, then the world will respect us so much more.
I love the way you say it. And when I hear you talk, I hope everybody understands the sensitivity you bring to a very complex issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel if more people, more Jews, more Israelis, more Arabs spoke in the way you spoke just now, there would be a real chance to move forward towards peace. And again, what peace means is that you have two peoples who respect each other enough to live side by side. And I am finding it harder and harder in my work as a Jewish broadcast television journalist to find people who are able to express it as you express it. It's easy right now to find a plethora of people who will express pessimism and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I don't respect where that comes from. And there has been a history of, in my view, mistakes that have not only been made by Israel, but more mistakes have been made by people who have felt, for one reason or another, either their land was taken from them, or there's some kind of religious reason that they don't want Israel to exist. But Israel has had many, many, many years of burying too many children. And it wears people down when all they're saying, at least in their own mind, what they seem to be saying is, just live with me and we'll work this out. When I hear you talk, you make me feel that it is the way people should talk, how the Jews should talk. And I'm very, very, I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. And you may not be, this may not be your field, diplomacy, and your field is to use this. I say this in a non-judgmental way. This is your tool. Mm-hmm. It's not a weapon. It's a tool you use.
Of course it's a tool.
As opposed to a rifle or a Qassam rocket or an F-14.
I turned the gun into a guitar.
That's what you did. That's what you've done.
This is the order of the Bible.
Exactly. Very good, very good. So, look, David Broza, you did this extraordinary CD, Night Dawn, the unpublished poetry of Towns Van Zandt. And I told you off camera that one of my favorite last night is the last number on this CD, which is just an instrumental.
Yep.
It's called Too Old to Die Young. That's right. I want you to set up why you added to this CD this instrumental, and then I want to hear a little bit of it.
Well, this is, in mind, I wanted to dedicate something mine, only mine, to Towns' memory, to what I feel so grateful, not just to Towns, to the whole circumstance, to my life, to having been enabled to take this journey and travel as I had envisioned when I started my career of building bridges through music. And poetry is the bridge. Music is my Israeli music wherever I go. And after having traveled in the United States for so many years, a lot of the times without a real address, just in search, having met Towns and finding in him so many elements that I'd been searching for, I thought it was most appropriate to close the album with just a piece of instrumental. And then I was talking with G. Smith in a rehearsal and talking about how old was he when he died. He was 52. And G is somewhat older, and I'm 54. And so we were looking at each other saying, you know, yeah, we're all, like, it came out of, like, conversation, we're all just too old to die young. Nobody's going to say, oh, they died young. So I thought that's what I want to dedicate to Towns. This is the name of the piece. I'll play part of it.
David, too old to die young. Yasha Koach, just Yotzei Min HaKlal.
Thank you very much.
Just outstanding, outstanding.
Thank you.
Look, you know how much I love you and how much I appreciate you going out of your way time and time again. I wish you kol tuv v'hatzlacha in all your activities. You are a remarkable talent and a special human being. And I'm honored to have you on and to talk to you. And I'm also happy to say that this extraordinary album, Night Dawn, by David Broza, music by David Broza, set to the unpublished poetry of Towns Van Zandt, is something you can get through us. Anybody who makes a tax-deductible contribution to Jewish education and media to support our work, all you need to do is request a CD, and we will send you a CD of Night Dawn, David Broza's extraordinary album. And I appreciate your letting us, sort of get this out even more.
Thank you very much.
Semicolon, no period. Next time you're doing something in America, you let me know. And then when I come to Israel, you and I will meet. You'll take me to your studio. We'll meet Saeed, his studio.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, as I said to you before, there is a heart and soul to you that is one that touches everybody, not only through your music, but even through your words. And we should only learn a sensitivity that you bring to your embracing of all humanity. And I am very, very grateful. Thank you, David.
I'm very grateful too. Thank you. It's my honor.
As always, I invite you to be in touch with me with any thoughts or comments you may have to the ideas expressed by David Broza. Please be in touch with me. Email me or write me this week. And if you want to be in touch with David, you can do so by emailing me, and I will forward your emails on to him. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.
I wanna see the moon when it rises above, the last girl I'll ever love. I wanna see the moon when it rises above, the last girl I'll ever love. I wanna see the moon when it rises above, the last girl I'll ever love. I wanna see the moon when it rises above, the last girl I'll ever love.